Well, yesterday we studied adding and subtracting like fractions. So today we're going to go over adding and subtracting unlike fractions. Fractions with different denominators are called unlike fractions. And we talked about this yesterday. With like denominators, they are called like fractions. Different denominators, they're called unlike fractions. The rule is still the same, except now we have to find a common denominator. So there's going to be 3 steps involved in solving these problems. So the first one, you're going to rename the fraction using the LCD to find the common denominator. You actually do not have to use the LCD, but it's going to be the smallest denominator you would be using. I mean, you're going to have to do less simplifying in the end, but any common denominator would really be fine. So we have 2/3 minus 1/6. Your common denominator for 3 and 6 is actually 6. There's LCD, and you'll see that that information is right over here. So since this is already a 6, I'm going to leave it alone. 2/3 changes to a denominator that is a 6 by multiplying 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. We have 4/6 minus 1/6. So after you rename the fraction with a common denominator, you're going to add or subtract the numerator. The denominator, once again, is going to stay the same. So 4 minus 1 is 3. 6 minus 6 we don't do because that doesn't make sense. It would leave us with 0. So we have 4/6 minus 1/6. That leaves us with 3/6. And then we're going to simplify your sum or your difference. So 3/6, I can divide a 3 into both the numerator and the denominator, and we get 1/2. Okay, so like I said before, we're going to get common denominators here. So for 6 and 3, if we were to find the LCD, okay, I know that 6 is going to be my common denominator. So this stays the same. I have 1/6 plus, I'm going to multiply these both by 2 because 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. So I have 1/6 plus 4/6. Add your numerator. 1 plus 4 is 5. Denominator stays the same. I can't simplify it. So that is my final answer. 9/10 plus 1/2. Okay, LCD again between 10 and 2. Okay, we know 10 is an even number, so eventually we are going to get 10 as one of the multiples of 2. So 10 is our common denominator. 9/10 stays the same. 1/2 will change to a denominator of 10 by taking 2 times 5. 1 times 5 I'll also do because you have to do the same to the denominator and the numerator. You get 5/10. So you have 9/10 plus 5/10 is your new problem. You've renamed the fractions as tenths. Add your numerators. 9 plus 5 is 14. Denominators stay the same. Okay, this is an improper fraction, so I need to figure out how many times 10 can go into 14 and it go into it one whole time with a remainder of 4. So I get 1, that's my whole number. My numerator is 4. My denominator stays the same. Okay, now we know at this point that I can reduce. So I'm going to divide the 4 and the 10 by 2 because they are both even. The 1 stays out front. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. I have no other number that can divide into my 2 and my 5, so my answer is 1 2/5. Okay. 1/4 plus 3/8. So once again, I need to find a common multiple. Make sure you're not finding a factor. I can't change 8 into 4. We're never dividing. We can only multiply to make these numbers bigger. We're not going to make them smaller. Okay? When we rename our problems, we need to multiply to make them bigger. Our common multiple between 4 and 8 is actually 8. So I'm going to change 1/4 into a problem with 8 as my denominator. 4 times 2 is 8, so I'm going to take 1 times 2, and that is 2 eighths. Okay, so now I have 2 eighths plus 3 eighths. 2 plus 3 is 5. My denominator stays the same, and I get 5 eighths as my answer. Okay, 5 eighths cannot be reduced, and I'm done. Okay, now we have a subtraction problem, and once again I want to find the common denominator between 2 and 5. So a common number between 2 and 5 we know would not be 5. That doesn't work. So I'm going to list them out again. So for 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. For 5s, I have 5, 10, 15, and already I see that I have a common number of 10. Now, because neither of these are numbers with 10 as their denominators, I'm going to have to change them both to denominators of 10. Okay, so they have that common number. So I can do 2 times 5 is 10, and do 1 times 5 is 5. Then I have 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 times 2 is 4. So you notice that I multiplied them both by a different number. Okay, and that's because I'm applying it to my denominator in that particular fraction. They need to have denominators of 10, so that's what I need. That's my goal. So 2 times 5 is 10. Keep that. 5 times 2 is 10, so I'm multiplying these by 2's and these by 5's. So now my new problem becomes 5 tenths minus 4 tenths. 5 minus 4 is 1. Denominator stays the same. I cannot simplify this particular fraction, so my answer is 1 tenth. And here's our last problem, 3/4 minus 1/3. Okay, I encourage you to press pause and try this one by yourself, and then see how it matches up with the one I'm going to do. So once again, put that all wrong. My LCD is what I need to find first. For 4 and 3. So I have 4, 8, 12, and I have 3, 6, 9, 12. My common number is 12 here. So once again, I'm going to have to change them both to numbers with a denominator of 12. Okay, and remember that when you're doing this, you're just changing them to equivalent fractions. So they still represent the same part of the whole, which is what a fraction represents, a part of a whole. You're just giving them out a common denominator. So I know 4 times 3 is 12, so I'm going to multiply my numerator by 3 as well to get 9. And 3 times 4 is 12. I'm going to multiply my numerator by 4 as well. So I get 9 twelfths minus 4 twelfths. Okay, 9 minus 4 is 5. My denominator is going to stay the same. I cannot simplify this particular fraction, so my answer is 5 twelfths. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is get a common number, common denominator. You're going to rename it and get a common denominator. Okay, combine the numerators, leave the denominator the same, and when it applies, you're going to simplify your fraction. Okay, as always, if you have any questions, make sure you ask Mr. Kohlinger or myself tomorrow. As always, thank you for watching.